Okay. So for last couple of weeks, we've been in Hebrews 7. We've been talking about Melchizedek. We've been talking about Jesus. We've been talking about the Israelites. Is everybody good on those people? Did everyone knows who Melchizedek is? That's good. I'm really getting tired of saying that name over and over and over again, Melchizedek. What were the Israelites? These are Jewish Christians that this is being written to. What was their issue? Why is this being written to them? Looking back, right? So at this point, they're facing persecution, and they're looking back fondly on the old ways, right? The traditions that they grew up with. They're looking back to the law, to the way the tabernacle was set up, to the holy priest doing their duties on the high days, and the priests offering sacrifices daily for their sins. Looking back, saying, that's not so bad because nobody tried to kill us. Nobody tried to imprison us. So obviously that would work. And we discussed how that's very similar to what happened in the desert when Moses went up on the mountain and they were wondering what had happened to us. Where is this guy? He brings us here and he leaves us. So they go to their high priest, Aaron, and they say, hey, make a golden calf. Hey, let's give us something to worship. Remember those nice gods in Egypt that kept us, in slavery, and how that we get beaten on a regular basis and we'd get just enough food to keep us strong so that we could help to do what we needed to do, making bricks with straw and clay. Wasn't that awesome when we did that? And so Aaron takes all their earrings and he melts them down and he makes a golden calf and he says, hey, everybody's happy. Let's have a festival for the golden calf, which is our God. So looking back is something that we discussed that the Israelites are known for, which makes sense because if we think back, we tied that to us looking back as well. Everybody has in them this ability to think back and forget about all the negative stuff that was going on. For the Israelites, it was forgetting that they had been beaten, that they were slaves, that they were well cared for. For us, it's forgetting that in high school we were beaten, we were enslaved. I don't know. I don't know what high school you went to, but mine was not brutal at all because I'm from Gresham. So, but some of you went to some high schools that were probably pretty similar to that, right? Right? Slavery, high school, same thing. So we look back on those types of things and we say, oh, those were the great days, because we have this ability to forget those things. So the author of Hebrews is taking the opportunity to remind them that these things were not really all that great, and showing them what is great. And now we're into providing some of the meat and allowing them some growth so they don't remain as infants in that. We're going to pick up in 7 verse 25 and go through 8:5 today. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So I'll go ahead and start reading in Hebrews 7, verse 25 through 8:5. Therefore he is able once and forever to save those who come to God through him. He lives forever to intercede with God on their behalf. He is the kind of high priest we need because he is holy and blameless, unstained by sin. He has been set apart from sinners. He has been given the highest place of honor in heaven. Unlike those other high priests, he does not need to offer sacrifices every day. They did this for their own sins at first, and then for the sins of the people. But Jesus did this once and for all when he offered himself as a sacrifice for the people's sin. The law appointed high priests who were limited by human weakness. But after the law was given, God appointed his Son with an oath, and his Son had been made perfect, the high priest forever. Here's the main point. We have a high priest who sat down on the place of honor beside the throne of the majestic God in heaven. There he ministers in the heavenly tabernacle, the true place of worship that was built by the Lord and not by human hands. And since every high priest is required to offer gifts and sacrifices, our high priest must make an offering too. If he were here on earth, he wouldn't even be a priest, for there are already priests who offer the gifts required by law. They serve in a system of worship that is only a copy, a shadow of the real one in heaven. For when Moses was getting ready to build the tabernacle, God gave him this warning: be sure to make everything according to the pattern that I have shown you here on the mountain. So I just want to explore exactly what God told him on the mountain. Now, this section is quoting a portion in Exodus for us. It's that part of Exodus that everybody kind of skims through and doesn't read, because, I don't know, I could be wrong. We have a lot of do-it-yourselfers. Is anybody planning on building a tabernacle? Maybe. Well, I'm probably gonna have to sit down and do a SketchUp model, so we have a 3D representation. But this is in Exodus 25, verse 40 specifically is what's being quoted here, and also again in 26, verse 30. But just to give you an idea, obviously this is based on something real. It's not like, Moses was just like, hey, let's throw something together, right? He was given a specific glimpse of something. He was given specific measurements. He was told to make something real, but it is a copy of something. So let's pick up reading on chapter 25 of Exodus, verse 31 through 40. Plans for the lampstand. I mean, this is how detailed it is. This is why some people go, oh, measurements. Next. We're going to actually read part of it here. Make a lampstand of pure hammered gold. Make the entire lampstand and its decoration of one piece: the base, center stem, lamp cups, buds, and petals. Make it with 6 branches going out from the center stem, 3 on each side. Each of the 6 branches will have 3 lamp cups shaped like an almond blossom, complete with buds and petals. Craft the center stem of the lampstand with 4 lamp cups shaped like almond blossoms, complete with buds and petals. There will also be an almond bud beneath each pair of branches, where the 6 branches extend from the center of the stem. The almond buds and branches must all be of one piece with the center stem, and they must be hammered from pure gold. Then make 7 lamps for the lampstand and set them so that they reflect their light forward. The lamps, snuffers, and trays must also be made of pure gold. You will need 75 pounds of pure gold for the lampstand and its accessories. Be sure that you make everything according to the pattern that I have shown you here on the mountain. And again, in 26, I'll start in verse 15 through 30. For the framework of the tabernacle, construct frames of acacia wood. Each frame must be 15 feet high and 27 inches wide, with 2 pegs under each frame. Make all the frames identical. Make 20 of these frames to support the curtains on the south side of the tabernacle. Also make 40 silver bases, 2 bases for under each frame, with the pegs fitting securely into the base. For the north side of the tabernacle, make another 20 frames, and with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Make 6 frames for the rear, the west side of the tabernacle, along with 2 additional frames to reinforce the rear corners of the tabernacle. These corner frames will be matched at the bottom and firmly attached at the top with a single ring forming a single corner unit. Make both of these corner units the same way, so there will be 8 frames at the rear of the tabernacle, set in 16 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Make crossbars of acacia wood to link to the frames, 5 crossbars for the north side of the tabernacle and 5 for the south side. Also make 5 crossbars for the rear of the tabernacle, which face the west. The middle crossbar attached at the hallway up the frames will run all the way around to the end of the tabernacle to the other. Overlay these frames with gold and make gold rings to hold the crossbars. Overlay the gold crossbars with gold as well. Set up this tabernacle according to the pattern that you were shown on the mountain. So how many of you said today, when I go to church, I'm going to learn how to build a tabernacle today? I read those specifically so you would get the point. This was a very real thing that Moses was given the opportunity to see. He was given exact measurements, he was given exact directions, he was given everything that he would need to make this exactly as it needed to be. So this was a very real thing. This is the designs for the tabernacle. This is the designs for the Holy of Holies, the entirety of how they were to approach God. And they were given all of these measurements. It was eventually built, and I'm here to tell you now that it was nothing. It was a shadow. It was not real. It was a glimpse of what could be real. For our intents and purposes, it is what I like to call a SketchUp model, just because I use SketchUp to make the model. It was not quite all there. So I want you to take a look at the screen real quick. I'm going to show you some really short videos. It helps if I pick the right input. So this is the design for the Mac Fair. In the middle is the top of our church, and you can see 45th Avenue and Main Street, and then all those little squares are the booths that we're planning for. So we have all the booths in the parking lot next door, we have all the booths along the street, and then we have the ones continuing up Main Street right past this window here. I can tell you this worked like 5 times in practice. So as you can see, this is a very real model, right? I kid you not. These measurements are accurate. All the way down, you can see the street will be filled with vendors. Those are food carts. It's for Jedi Dog. Sorry, I didn't have any Bro Dog ones. I apologize. But, so that is the Arts and Crafts Fair. So it's a very real thing. Now, you're familiar with our kitchen as well, right? So our kitchen was first designed here, and you can see the sinks, the stove, the oven, right there. That's exactly what everything looks like. So, very real. You can move around inside of it, but it's a shadow of what there actually is, right? In this day and age, we have tons of things that are shadows. 10 years ago, the big thing was Second Life. You can create an avatar for yourself to live in a virtual world where you can go anywhere you want to and you can do anything that you want to do. Your character can fly if you want to. Now, recently, of course, people have become disenfranchised because, you're moving a character around like The Sims, and, it's kind of fallen out of focus a little bit. They're losing a lot of people. But for some people, Second Life is their life. It's become very real. They've become to depend on it. For some of us, we have video games. Grand Theft Auto. Or we play Call of Duty. We play games that allow us to go out and do things that we've never... Unfortunately, I tried, but I can never join the military. It's a fact of life. But for, a couple $100 and then an additional $40, I can sit down and I can be in the military anytime I want. People come to depend on these types of things on a regular basis. We come to depend on those types of things as an escape from what's going on in life. Because when we're playing a video game, when we're walking in our second life, or we're even just on our Facebook threads, we're disconnected from what's going on. We're connected. I mean, we even have the ability now to sit there and play our video games with somebody miles away, talking to them the entire time. But we're disconnected. But this has become a very real thing, but it's a shadow of the real world. The tabernacle is a shadow of the real tabernacle, the holy place. You see, what happens is when we do things on a mechanical basis, when we look specifically to those things and we find comfort in those types of things, we do them habitually. It's like taking a really sharp knife and just continuously banging it on the counter over and over and over again. Eventually, what's going to happen to that knife? It's going to be dull. Precisely, it will start to curve around. That very fine edge of metal will curl around. And you know those little sharpening things? All they do is they're designed to kind of unfold the metal again. But eventually, it's going to be dull and it's going to be curved around on its side, and it's not going to be very good for cutting anything anymore. It's going to be reflecting, that edge is going to be reflecting back upon the rest of the body. So just like the Israelites take the opportunity and they reflect back on those things that comfort them, they reflect back on, oh, the tabernacle, the holy priest, the priest that provides sacrifices every day. They have to be reminded that though that was there, it is a shadow. Though it's something that you did every day and it comforted you, it was you beating a knife against the counter. It caused you to reflect back on yourself, to examine yourself, to expose those things. The author of Hebrews offers forth Jesus as the holy priest, and he says, look, this is not the same thing. This is the law fulfilled. Instead of a holy priest that dies, instead of putting your faith in something that will always be there for you, that dies, causing your faith to be broken. You can now have faith in the holy priest that will not die, that sits for you today and intercedes on your behalf. We talked last week about many of us are stuck with the Jesus as he appeared on earth, the historical Jesus, right? Instead of the living Jesus that is active today doing something on a regular basis, interceding for us at the right hand of God. He doesn't have to make sacrifices for himself so that he is able to make a sacrifice for us. Because he was blameless, he sacrificed himself. And he conquered death, and he stands there now at God's right hand and intercedes for us so that all barriers are knocked down. So this tabernacle that was described, that was a very real thing, has been knocked down. It is gone. Even in our actual physicality at this point in time, it is a shadow of what it was. But the tabernacle in heaven is very real. So much more real than what this was. But the Israelites look back fondly because it is something of comfort. It's something that they can have faith in. It's someone they can have faith in. Someone that is safe for them. And y'all knew I was going to do this. It's like a car. It's like a car that you trust. Every time you have driven this car, it has done exactly what you've needed it to do. And then one day, it won't shift anymore. It doesn't quite work the way it's supposed to. But because it's something that you care for, you've always trusted it, it's always done what it needs to do for you, you pour money into it, and lo and behold, they're able to fix the slave cylinder, and you can shift again, and off you go. It's like a car that you can trust to do everything that you want it to do. You put your trust in it, and eventually the car dies. All cars die. It's a sad thing. How many of you look back fondly on your first car? And it was filled with flaws, but you loved it. You knew exactly what would happen, and you trusted it. But in the end, it died for you. Either you sold it, or it quit, and you left it where it was. Or you wrecked it. And maybe it's somebody else's real thing that they can trust in. We all develop these things that we can trust in. We all develop these things that are going to pass away, and we look upon them to find our comfort. Jesus never passes away. In fact, the only time he died, he kicked death in the teeth. Destroyed its grill, if you will. I had to tie it all together, or it doesn't make sense. He will never die, and he continues to sit there. Well, he's probably standing sometimes. I don't know. But he's at the right hand of God. He's interceding on our behalf. He is something that you can put your faith in, that you can trust to do the same thing that needs to be done. He is the person that you could put your faith in to offer the sacrifice, because he did. He never has to do it again, because it was fulfilling of that law, that shadow of what is. We need to remember, in this world where we get closer and closer to being, dare I say, godlike in our ability to control the lives of little avatars on screen, we need to be reminded that we need to look and put our comfort where it's real, not into the shadow of things. So the thing that you need to think about today, if you would, be like a personal favor to me. Discuss those things that you put your faith in. Discuss those things that they've let you down. The only way to understand, the only way to be able to put our focus where it needs to be is to acknowledge that those other things stand in the way sometimes. Acknowledge that those things exist or have existed. Maybe you've conquered some of those things. It's like an addiction. It has to be acknowledged before it can be addressed. Once you've addressed it, once you've thought about it, once you've put it in its proper place, it will help you to talk to those people that are still holding on to those things that they find safe. Still holding on to their cars. Still holding on to those things they've come to know and trust. Finding comfort and dismissing the faults. Because, doggone it, didn't we have it good back then? But praise the Lord, we have it excellent now, regardless of the persecution. And I don't, I sound like I'm anti-happiness, but quite honestly, stop looking for happiness. If you're looking for happiness, you'll have to continue to look for it every single day, every single minute. Understand the joy, even in the midst of trials, instead of looking back for those things that gave you happiness in that moment. So please spend some time and discuss this for, I guess, like 20 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap it up here. So please exit to your cell groups, and we'll have some good discussion.